Thank you, Monica and Michelle, for joining us today for an interview. This is actually a look back into Mephisto's boxes, one of the successful North American boxer kennel, started in 1968 by Walter and Monika Pinsker. So we have on the chair Monica and Michelle, both of us. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
We're fine, thank you.
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Excellent. Very good, very good. I want to actually get right into Mephisto's boxes. I don't want to waste any time. I know how important it is for everybody watching to understand history, and I want to take you back. Want you to take us back in history, take us back in time, and share with us how Mephisto's boxes came into being.
Well, my husband and I purchased our first boxer for our son, and we researched the breed heavily. How good are they with children and all those things that are important to a family pet. And we picked out a nice, flashy fawn male who was, from a well-known kennel. And the breeder asked us to come to a sanction match. And they had all 7 animals from the same litter there. And we placed third. And I think from that moment on, we didn't want to be third. We wanted to be first. So we went to other shows, and there we then saw the champions come. And among them were great dogs like Fashion Hint, Shadrach, Syncopation, his sister. And we realized, looking at our beloved pet, that he was not in the running. We finished the championship on this dog, like hook and crook. But we realized this wasn't what we envisioned owning. And we also realized that as immigrants, we did not have the money to purchase any of those great dogs. What we had to do was breed it. So we placed this beloved pet in a family home and set out to start our breeding stock. We were lucky enough because we showed a keen interest in Shadrach, that Shirley DeBoer, who owned Shadrach, allowed us that we could purchase a foundation bitch. Okay, and we did that. And that started us right there. But we had to know first, the big thing is that the dog we loved so much as our family dog was not good enough to be a breeding animal. That was just, you have to know that.
Right.
You know.
I want to actually take you. I want to actually ask you. And I know you said a few things here with the first dog that you got, and you kind of quickly realized that the first dog was not the dog that's going to get you to win. So are you a very competitive person in nature?
Myself? No. My husband, yes.
Okay. And how important do you think this characteristic makes for to become an accomplished breeder?
Well, in with us, the union between my husband's ideology and mine matched really well. We didn't compete. I was happy with the creation side of the dogs, the raising of the litters and all that. And my husband was happy going off in the world and judging them and showing them and doing all that side of it. And when it came to making decisions, we had some famous battles when those sentiments didn't match. And but we always agreed at the end. This was the way to go. We'll do that. Okay. There was not a winner and a loser in this show. Okay. And you need the partner for that. You can't do this alone.
Of course. I know you have a very, very witchy story waiting. I know you told me that story over the phone, but I would love everybody to hear it. How you actually kept the dog from Walter's side for a year, how you protected the dog. But we're going to get to that in a moment. I want to actually get back into boxers. I know you decided to get a boxer, but why a boxer? Why did you choose a boxer of all breeds?
Well, there's not many aspects that we looked at. Mostly was that would they be good with our children? Okay, that has no question. And we went into many kennels in Ontario looking at other breeds. We, researched them thoroughly, the history, where they came from. Mrs. Stockman in Germany, how she brought them through the war, all these things came to play. There wasn't just one item that made the decision. There was many of them that came together. And they suited our lifestyle. They suited our way of how we looked at the dog we want to live. With they're with you 24/7 for all their life. You have to respect them and you have to love them. And in respect, they respect you and they love you in turn, right? And the boxer filled those bills. He's short-coded, energetic, playful when they want to be, calm when you want them to be. And many times I got asked the question, so how smart is the boxer? And my answer always was, they're so smart, they can make you believe they're dumb. They can outsmart you. You believe me. And anyone who's ever shown one in obedience knows what I'm talking.
You're right.
Okay. And I like that. I like the challenge of the mind. Like that would be boring if you have a dog that isn't thinking.
Very true. Very true. Totally agree with you. I want to actually fast forward to well, I wish it was success came as success involved a lot of planning and a lot of sleepless nights pairing dogs. I know you started off with a bitch called Lollipop. Was it correct, Lollipop?
No, yeah, no. That my
She came
foundation.
second.
My foundation mix was Sherkun's Autumn's Concerto.
Okay, Autumn Concerto. Correct.
And
Correct.
she was a Shadrach daughter, and
Right.
Lollipop we purchased next, and she
Mhm.
was a fashion hint daughter.
Got it.
Okay, and her kennel name was Verwood's Lollipop.
Right. Right. Now, I know that I know that the modern boxer was Milan's fashion hint was had an influential part to play in setting the course of the breed, but I know Shadrach actually was a very prepotent sire as well. And I know you actually mentioned that Miss Shirley DeBoer, Mrs. Shirley DeBoer actually did breed that dog, use that dog quite tactfully. In fact, used him on his grandmother, on his mother, and also his niece. That's what I've heard. Could you share more insight about that breeding that Shirley did?
It was kind of controversial in those days to breed
Mhm.
she did, but I think it was very important because it cemented the bloodline. So she took Shadrach and bred him to his mother. She took Shadrach and bred it to his grandmother and to the little sister. All three litters were born at the same time. And from each one of them came the little building blocks that we then used in years to come. From the litter to his mother came a dog called a Bendigo. And a Bendigo went to the States, did very well, and he produced a dog called Benjamin of Five Teeth. So, and there you go already into the top winning bloodlines in the US. The next mating to his sister produced a dog called Meshach. Meshach did extremely well in the ring himself, produced very well. As a matter of fact, I think there was a record-breaking litter of 7 champions in the United States. It did amazing things. I myself had, I think, 5 or 6 champions with Meshach. And the other one was, of course, the mating with his grandmother, which was my interest. Um, she produced, Vendetta. So that, but those were and my thing was always to mix all these lines. Wherever they went, they had to come back to the beginning. Okay? So,
Right.
so that was my greatest aim, was to mix and match from here, a little from here, from a little from there. They were all great dogs in this mix, top winners, but you had to know what to use with what.
Of course.
Okay?
Very true.
But that was really what we started with. Was the foundation of what we did, and it was not our making. It was Shirley DeBoer's.
Right. But I know you discovered Mephisto's Vendetta. I know you recounted the story of how you picked him up and when you picked him up and when you had that eureka moment of this is going to be the next big winner. Can you tell us? Could you share with us about that moment, please?
Well, actually, the litter was born, and they were all lying next to their mother, and it struck me that from one of them seemed to be so much longer. Okay, so I took my finger and I lifted his head, and all of a sudden I realized, no, he was not longer. He had this fabulous neck and shoulder. Okay, and it was a baby. Okay, and I went upstairs and I told my husband, we just had a great dog born. And he called me crazy. How the heck would you know? Um, but it was so obvious, but you don't see that often. So when you see it, you have to pay attention, because this doesn't come along all the time.
Right.
Very rarely that you see that formation in front of you in an infant. And he did extremely well.
Right. But it did happen often for you, didn't it? It did happen with High Noon. It happened with Black Sabbath. With Rosencavalier, Guns N' Roses. How was it like, is I've heard breeders actually aspire this, in order to be successful they should establish their own kennel style or type. They should breed cookie cutter dogs, they say, just like they say cookie cutter houses, they should breed cookie cutter dogs. What do you think about that statement?
Well, you're gonna put it to me. Then what we looked at, what we always wanted, was a great dog. If that produced cookie cutter, I'd be laughing all the way, right?
Mhm.
But that doesn't happen all the time. You have to be, patient, and you sometimes get one building block, but not quite what you're after. But no, I would love to be able to do cookie cutter vendetta breedings. I tell you, I
Yeah.
would do them over and over and over again.
Right. No, indeed. No, no, true. But when you started your breeding program, or when you actually got into it more, what were some of the challenges that you faced? What were some of the things that you tried to work hard towards? Because your dogs, I only look at the pictures now, and I know that Vendetta was a dog ahead of his times. He actually looked very square. He had a beautiful layback of shoulders. He had the beautiful neck, an excellent silhouette, good strong hindquarters, good excellent tail set. He had everything, right? So
Yeah.
what was it that you were working for that you got Vendetta?
Well, as I said, my dream was Shadrach in the beginning. I wanted to have a Shadrach. I wanted him, or better, if I could. There wasn't much better than that. I was not satisfied with second best. I've never been satisfied with second best. Um, and you always have to keep one thing in mind. You have, when you show dogs, you get to the show ring and you see your competition, you have to know who could and should beat you and why. So you have to give the credit to all the other specimens that are there. You can't just say, oh, mine is the greatest, I love it to bits, and he's the best. Tell me why. And give credit to the other specimens and look at them and say, well, that dog has something I could use. That dog could maybe give me something that's important to me. And I don't care who owns it. I don't care where it is. It doesn't matter. The aim is the great dog, the great specimen for the future. Okay? And when we started with all this frozen semen stuff, when I sent High Noon to Norway, the Norwegians were light years ahead of the North Americans when it came to frozen semen. Okay, even ordinary breeders had containers in their garages where their semen was stored. In North America, we didn't even know how to register the offsprings of those
Right.
dogs. So when I sent them, I made it already a condition that I either would bring his semen back after a few years, okay, or I would pick a female that was to be bred to him, and I would bring back an offspring. So we set that up years ahead, okay. And my husband always kept saying, "You keep dreaming, that's never gonna happen." But it did happen, and I brought back Vini Vidi Vici, and he was already the offspring from a mother that was born out of frozen semen. So it was 3 generations frozen semen already. Okay, it's fantastic that we have that available. See, if I was breeding today, I would have a frozen semen bank. I would have all the great dogs in the world, and I would have them stored.
Indeed, you can just mix and match. That would be wonderful.
Bring it all around. It's fantastic that we have that available. Plus, that all these animals that are frozen have health tests. They are all screened for the purpose of reproduction. Not just that there's the semen, but also that only the healthiest specimens are used for breeding purposes. So we've done a lot by bringing that in.
Indeed, indeed. I want to bring Michelle in to the mix here. So, Michelle, I know how was it? I know I asked you this question before, but how was it growing up in a household, filled with boxers? Is that you did you learn to walk with a boxer on your side?
Yeah, my mom says that. That's how I learned to walk. Was in between two older,
Hmm.
boxers, and actually, mom and dad's foundation. There's a picture of when they brought me home from the hospital, and
Hmm.
Connie is on one side and Lollipop is on the other. I remember Vendetta curled at my feet, sleeping on the couch.
Wow.
Yeah, I have those moments. Of course, I was too young to remember Vendetta in the ring or Soldier
Hmm.
of Fortune in the ring. Uh, but what I've said to people too, when you're a kid or a young adult, you have spent hours, in a room with your parents and other boxer breeders, and you can't help. You're listening, and you can't help but retain
Mm.
stories and all of those years, which of course I was not a part of. I was a child, but you feel that you were more a part of it just from listening all these years,
Right.
which helps you learn too if you're
True.
listening.
Indeed, indeed. But in terms of, I know it would have been a logical progression for somebody, seeing growing up with dogs to actually get into professional handling or
Mhm.
getting into handling. But on the other side, on the flip side, this could also be a turn off as well for somebody growing up. Who would have been said, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to go out and do something else."
Oh,
So
absolutely.
what was the moment when you
Um,
decided to take it up?
Yeah,
As
you
a,
know what? I have a brother. He's 6 years older.
Mhm.
He will talk about his childhood and say, there were a million pictures of dogs, but only a handful of pictures of me. Right? And you could say the same with me as well, right? But I think you had asked about a competitive nature at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah, I'm highly competitive. So in
Right.
that way, I take after my dad,
Mhm.
right? And not being happy with mediocrity in
Right.
anything. We just, uh, strived for the best. And I did not start in juniors until I was 11. I started, and I was pushed in by a family friend,
Mhm.
and same thing. I went fourth and knew absolutely nothing, but I was bitten by the bug after that, and then started to travel with my dad, and then after a few years, assisted for a professional handler
Mhm.
for a number of years, about 4 or 5 years, and then went out on my own. And it's honestly, it comes down to from that competitive nature.
Right. Indeed. Indeed.
Yes, yeah.
Very true.
The thing is with my parents, though, I
Mhm.
have that part of my dad. However, I have the other part of my mom where I want to breed the great one myself as well.
Right, indeed. And you have bred a few good ones, great ones as well, along the way as well. We're going to get to that in just in a moment. We're going to talk about Devlin and how Devlin came about. But I want to actually get back to you, Monica. In terms of Benny Witty Witchy, tell us about the story of Benny Witty Witchy.
Well, Vini Vidi Vici, as I mentioned before, was my dream when I sent his father overseas. And good God, after quite a few years, we did get it accomplished that Hainun's son, Vini Vidi Vici, would return to Canada. And
It's like 2 decades, wasn't it?
two decades.
Not years, decades.
Decades. 2 decades later. It was a slow process, but we got it done because I'm stubborn. And I wanted that, and I set out to get it. So when Vinny arrived in Seattle, he arrived with long ears, a long tail, and 2 claws, and he was not the prettiest animal on earth, to say it politely. I brought him home, and then all the way from Seattle to Vancouver, I must have said 1,000 times, "Oh my God, I have to bring him home." And my husband had one look at him and said, "I don't want him, get rid of him." So I decided the best way was if he didn't see him, it didn't bother him, right? So I hid him for a year in the kennel. And one day he went out and he looked into the cage and said, "Who is that?" And then I had to tell him who this was. And then he took him out for walks, and he actually changed his mind.
Mm.
Vinny was very slow maturing. It took time to put all the components of that dog into one. And you had to be patient. But by the time he was even an older dog, he was a very fine animal.
Mm.
We showed him only 4 times. He finished in 4 shows. And he was never shown again because this was not his purpose. His purpose was not to be the winner. His purpose was to produce.
Right.
Okay? And that made the distinction between that instantly. I did not need another ribbon. I did not need any of the show trappings. Okay? But I needed him to be bred to the right bitches. And I was fortunate enough that some of the top breeders in North America used him for breeding.
Right. You actually bring up another question in my mind. I was not planning to ask this question, but you just mentioned there are certain dogs which are destined to do in the breed, in the show, the competitive edge that they have. There are certain dogs which actually do their part in actually as a sire, as a stud. how do you actually make that distinction? Is it something that you're looking for, the edge that the dog has that goes on to become a competitive show dog, and the dog? How is that? Is it by trial and error? Can you help me understand that?
Yeah, it sometimes it's circumstance as well, right?
Yeah.
Some dogs, my mom had a funny kind of quote there for years. Some dogs think they are so great, right?
Mhm.
And she said once, she's like, "Oh, well, you better never show him a mirror." So he didn't, because he thought he was that great, but wasn't exactly what you want, with the
Right.
critical eye that we have. Vinny was, on the other hand, a fabulous, handsome dog. He did not like the show ring. He did
Mm,
not. How we in North America show our dogs, and they're so manipulated and put together, and hands on.
right.
Vinny was the dog. You didn't touch him. You just showed him free, and he honestly, because I finished him, he was a moving fiend. He was spectacular on the go, and that's how he, won and
Right.
finished quickly. But he was not the type of dog that would put up with showing, and he
Right.
just simply wouldn't have.
He
just
didn't want to be manipulated.
No.
He had
Right.
a mind of his own.
Yeah.
That wasn't his job in the world.
No.
And he had no time for that nonsense. So,
Yeah. No, true, very true, very true. Michelle, that brings up my next question. This is one for you. You've shown, well, you must have lost count, or you probably stopped counting the number of boxes that you finished many years back. But would you actually, as a handler, would you classify a boxer as an easy breed to show?
No.
And why is that?
But you actually said it earlier on, that if you can, and the saying I think is true for a lot of handlers, if you can put down a boxer, you know how to put down a dog, right? You have to know how to put down a dog, and know how they fit, to be able to put them together, and to I hate to say it, as a handler, maybe even make them look better than they are.
Right.
Right? And
Yeah.
there are, I think, some of the best and most talented handlers out there come from boxers and come from Dobermans, because
Right.
they can simply put those breeds together.
Indeed. No, thank you, thank you. I think you made the answer. You're politically correct in stating that. Thank you for that. Monica, as a breeder, is a boxer an easy breed to breed?
I
What are
have
your thoughts?
other breeds too over the years. I was fortunate enough to have an outstanding smooth fox terrier, and that we, produced some nice animals from. I also bred Shiba Inus. And I come from a family of breeders. My mother bred Dobermans and German Shepherds. My grandfather bred Saint Bernards. So, it's kind of part of your makeup, okay?
Mhm.
And one thing about the boxer, when you show them, you can never bore them.
Mm.
Boredom is the kiss of death with this breed. If they get that look on their face saying, "Oh, gee, not that again," you really have your work cut out for you. You cannot bore them.
You had asked if boxers are an easy breed to breed.
Right. Yeah.
No, they are not. and I have said, sometimes I wish my parents had chosen a different breed, because they are not an easy breed
Right.
to breed and whelp, and no, and it just, and breeding them too in this day and age, it's only getting harder.
Very difficult.
It's only getting harder because of the vets, and if you can, do ears or tails, and typically C-sections, uterine inertia. They are not an easy breed to breed. They are not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And is And again, I want to actually get actually, I want to get back into that breeding aspect of things. When you actually did all this research with before the time when we had no internet, you actually had a lot of research, a lot of paperwork. When the term burning midnight oil actually suited more for breeders when you bred than the breeders now. Breeders probably they actually put a test pedigree together. That was not the case during your time. Now, do you think that was the reason why the breeders felt safer, staying with inbreeding or with line breeding? There's a lot more outcrossing happening now. In fact, in certain countries, outcrossing is what is recommended. They say they have this inbreeding coefficient. They say, you should not get below 5%, or get over 5%. Anything over 5% is actually getting too close, they say, and this is what I've read in some books in other countries. But is that why breeders from the time in the 60s and the 70s, which is termed as the golden period for the breed by some people, is that why they managed to get all that success? I know it's a loaded question, so I'll let you.
That's why I did what I did with Vinny, because his mother had English blood, North American blood, German blood, Norwegian blood, Swedish blood, okay? And all really good specimens, very carefully selected, okay? So with Vinny, I could also always call them my safety net. Okay, Vinny produced a lot of everything that was in his pedigree, and that is what I would recommend to people: is take the time, bring in the stud dog that you want to put all your efforts into, that has different lineages. You have to you look at the future. When I started in boxers, it was not very unusual to see an old boxer. They died at the age of 6 or 7. Okay? And I said out right there and then, saying that is too early. I don't want these dogs to die that young. I want them to be old. I want them 11, 12 and older. Okay? And Vinny brought that with him.
The longevity. Yeah.
The longevity is definitely there. And this is thanks to his pedigree. The mix of the bloods, the mix of the generations. It isn't just his looks that I was smart enough to do this. It is the pedigree. It always comes back to the pedigree. Okay, so don't ever dismiss a dog like that because, oh my goodness, I don't like the look of a German boxer, or like idiotically, the breed standards of most of these countries are identical, but they look totally different.
Right.
Right? Why is that? It's just the evolution of what we had to use, right? But ultimately, we come back to the standard. The standard says la 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 la, right? And then, if this dog has these attributes, he can do some good in the breed. I mean, the top winningest dog in the world, if he cannot reproduce, is meaningless.
Right.
So it comes right down again to the pedigree, to the standard, to the work that the breeders put in over many, many generations. Like I appreciate any boxer anywhere in the world, okay, for what they are.
Right.
And what they bring to the table when you use them wisely.
Indeed. No,